How do you capture a high-value target when the whole world is watching? You create a masterclass in deception. The CIA set the stage with a single building as bait and filled the sky with 150 aircraft to create a deafening sonic shield for the helicopters to drop Delta forces. F-35s lit up the perimeter, turning night into day. By the time the dust settled, the helicopters had already touched down and Maduro was gone. We'll also look at how the US uses the F-35 jets in its Navy to launch a large-scale attack, all in the video ahead. In the dead of night that is 2 in the morning, the lights went out in Caracas. By 5 a.m., the president of Venezuela was gone. But how US played in deception games. While the whole world were focused on the aircraft carriers in the Caribbean, a shadow war was being fought on the ground. This wasn't an invasion, it was a surgical extraction. We finally have the declassified timeline of how US forces breached the heart of Caracas and extracted Nicolás Maduro. Let's start with step 1. The setup. This didn't happen overnight. For months, the US had been tightening a naval quarantine around Venezuela. The US Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group and the US Iwo Jima Amphibious Ready Group were parked off the coast. The pretext was clear. The US designated the Venezuelan government a narco-terrorist state, specifically targeting the drugs lords. But while the Navy squeezed the coast, intelligence assets were tracking one man. They waited for a specific window, a moment where Maduro was stationary and vulnerable. Step 2. The strike. It began at exactly 2 in the morning Venezuelan Standard Time. High above, several F-35 stealth fighters punch a hole through the enemy lines, destabilizing their anti-air defenses. Like these Russian S-300 missiles located all over the strategic high-value target. With the skies cleared, the path opens for Delta Force helicopters to fly straight towards the mission. Here comes the deception as the helicopters flew. The jets started firing with more strikes as it hit Fort Tuna, the main military base and command center, and La Carlota Air Base, destabilizing Venezuelan air support. Reports from the ground described widespread explosions and a sudden communications blackout. The chaos wasn't the goal, it was the cover. But how did the raid happen? We have to look at step 3. Under the cover of darkness and chaos, the Tier 1 operators went to work. But what is the exact unit tasked with the mission? It is the Delta Force, one of the most elite secretive special forces units in the US military. Witnesses in Caracas reported low-flying aircraft skimming the rooftops, flying well below radar coverage. The team breached a secure compound believed to be a safe house within the massive Fort Tuna complex. Resistance from the Venezuelan Presidential Guard was swift but ultimately futile, as the helicopters lay cover fire. The operators moved with surgical speed, landing on multiple points. But how exactly the capture and extraction happened? For this, let's look at step 4. Specialized helicopters hovered over the objective to insert the assault team. While dozens of attack helicopters laid down suppression fire, the Delta Special Forces descended and started the search for the high-value targets. How did they find him? Simple. The CIA had planted spy inside Nicolás Maduro close circle. While back in the US, Delta Force built an exact replica of his safe house, rehearsing the raid until they could do it blindfolded. While operators breached the room so fast, his security could not even react to the situation as the sound of flash grenades disoriented the security guard. Using blowtorch, they caught him before he could even lock all the doors. Maduro's shock and awe froze him as Delta Force breached the compound. Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, were physically secured. This wasn't a negotiation. They were detained and immediately moved to the extraction point. These aircraft are capable of performing urban extractions from buildings and refueling in midair. Within minutes, they were airborne, leaving Venezuelan airspace and heading to a secure floating staging base in the Caribbean. This Operation Southern Spear has changed the geopolitical map of South America overnight. But wait, before after the extractions, there were reports of F-35 jets also leading the tip of the spear for the attack. We'll look how the United States used F-35 jets instead of F-16s for operations in Venezuela, because this is a well-organized and militarized Venezuela has positioned advanced Russian S-300 missile systems, Chinese radar networks, integrated Russian air defenses, and Shahed drones along its borders. This creates a highly lethal and challenging environment that older S-16s would struggle to survive. As stated, around 150 aircrafts and a massive 8 US destroyers were stationed there. It also has 3 amphibious aircraft carrier and surveillance plane to turn it into a massive command and control juggernaut capable of overcoming a modern military's air defenses. Signals a readiness to counter Venezuela's entire air defense network if necessary.